Here I am, in the place to be. Mr. K and B, you can't fuck with me. Extra sexy, extraordinary. Palms are hairy, your mama pop.
What up? Happy New Year. 2023 is here. Welcome to the Sexy Ninjacast from Cplus Studios. Also a Saber production. I am KMB, the Sexy Ninja, and I want to start off this New Year's right with a little movie called Star Trek from 2009 with Zachary Quinto, Chris Pine, such a great cast. Casting's fantastic. A reboot to a franchise that altered itself to be different in the future. You know, I just got done watching this movie. I've been like on a Star Trek kick lately. I sat down. I was like, man, I haven't watched the 2009 Star Trek in a while, and I watched it. Man, my mind was blown to the casting of everybody, to like down to the story. You know, this is the Kelvin timeline. You know, Kirk's dad was on USS Kelvin, and the bad guy Nero, he went through a wormhole, started attacking that ship, and they had to abandon the ship and whatnot, but Kirk's dad stayed behind, played by Chris Hemsworth, and, you know, his mom's pregnant with Kirk, and it's just the music, too. Oh, my gosh. That intro to the movie and everything like that, it's just so epic and just everything. And I went through the dude who scored the movie. He's also done the Batman and stuff like that and some other great movies. And like, I love musical scores. And I've been listening to the score for this movie after I watched Star Trek. I was just like, oh my God, I gotta listen to this. And I'm this big epic sound. And then when I saw that he did the Batman, I was like, oh man, that's perfect. Because the Batman soundtrack is great as well. If I'm not a big fan of the movie, I'm a big fan of the soundtrack. So I love musical scores like no other. I probably listen to musical scores more now as I get older, which is funny. Like one of my favorites is the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Deluxe Edition. I love that soundtrack. I even got it on vinyl. But besides the point, with this movie, and the reason why I wanted to start off 2023 with this movie in mind is because we have our own destiny to follow. And the point of the story is changing it into an alternate timeline. Nero comes from the future, and his planet was destroyed. He blames Spock because old Spock came through. Leonard Nimoy, fantastic in this movie as well. They go through a wormhole and kind of alters the timeline. And Kirk loses his dad, but he's just barely got born. And this alters his future. He becomes a little bit of a misfit, a little bit of like a rebel, of course. And Kirk has always been like, I'm Starfleet. This is my job, and this is what I need to do. I'm a little bit of a rebel. The Kobayashi Maru, like, you know, he did cheat on that, but everything in this movie, Chris Pine's version of Kirk was definitely something that I can relate more with, because he went through this like rough patch with his mom having his shitty stepdad and stuff like that. A great scene where he steals the car in the song Sabotage. That's why I like when that song comes back into Star Trek Beyond, the third movie in the franchise. And sabotage, you know, and he grows up, and he's in Iowa, and I like the relationship between Kirk and Captain Pike. They become like Pike becomes like his father figure and stuff like that. Tells him like, yo, you should join Starfleet, and he's like, you know, I see greatness in you. You can probably get a ship in like 4 years, get your own ship to your own ship to be captain of and everything like that. And Kirk kind of takes it and he looks, he's like, me, captain? No way. And he's like, I just see greatness in you, Kirk. And then Kirk goes and he jumps on, he goes to Starfleet where they're getting shipped off, and he's going to the academy that's in San Francisco, and he meets Bones, and Carl Urban as Bones is perfection. Like I said, the whole cast, Sulu and everybody, Uhura, everybody is perfection in their role. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. Like, I was on this movie's dick hard watching it, and the themes and everybody's like their destinations and stuff like that. And Zachary Quinto as Spock, mwah, and you have this idea of the bad guy Nero after seeing his planet destroyed and everything like that, and he wants to make Spock suffer. So fast forward years later, he's been waiting like 25 years. Nero's been waiting 25 years for old Spock to come through the black hole, which nearly minutes for him. They catch Spock, and he has this red matter stuff on Spock's old Spock ship that creates wormholes and destroy, because the supernova was coming in the future, and Spock tried to save Nero's planet, but it was too late. And then when he shot this red matter into it, like, it created this wormhole that Nero got sucked into, then Spock got sucked into. Like, Nero goes back in the past and Spock goes back in the past, but they're different points, So Nero, played by Eric Bana, fantastic. And, Nero is somebody that is hell-bent on making Spock suffer. Even though, like, when they capture Pike and everything like that, and they're like, and he goes, and Pike's like, dude, no, your planet's out there, man. Your planet's out there. We didn't destroy that. He's like, bullshit. I know that planet's out there, but I saw my planet die. I saw my reality go away. So I'm going to cause destruction to the Federation and start with the world. So when they destroyed Vulcan, they drilled this bit into the planet, and they were going to shoot that red matter in the middle so it can cause a wormhole. And they do succeed. And also adding a little bit more layers to Spock. He's seeing his entire race being this and that. And I'm jumping ahead of the gun, but when Kirk's at the academy, he beat the Kobayashi Maru. Like, he cheated. But he doesn't believe in a no-win scenario. Then this builds a relationship between him and Spock, and him and Spock really don't like each other, even though they're best friends in a different reality. And after that, that's when they're like, hey, something's going on in Vulcan. After Spock called him out, they had to go to court, basically, and Spock called out Kirk. And Kirk was like, oh, hey, I'm ready to go. And it's just one of those things where their relationship between each other, and especially in this movie, especially acting-wise, is so great. It's so fantastic. And I'm really loving that dynamic, and Uhura being, her and Spock have a thing together, and the comedy in this movie is spot on Star Trek. It's very light, it's very this, and I remember one thing everyone complained about with this movie when it came out was the flares. I didn't mind them. It gave the movie an edge that I really, really did. Everything was shiny and stuff like that. Like, that's when they're on aboard the Enterprise. Oh my God, the Enterprise looks amazing. And then when the score, I'm like, oh, the Enterprise, Fast forward, Kirk gets, they get the thing from Vulcan. Vulcan's being attacked or whatnot. They got to go. And Pike is the captain of the Enterprise and stuff like that. So they jump on the ship. Bones helps Kirk get on board by sticking him with some, and that's just the great stuff too. He sticks him with some stuff. He's like, hey, I'm giving you these chemicals and whatnot, that's going to give you these symptoms and stuff like that. But, and as he's bringing up Kirk to one of the ships to go to the Enterprise, one of the captains like, hey, what are you doing here? Kirk is grounded. He goes, no, this is my medical. I'm a doctor, and this is my patient and stuff like that. And then the code, blah, 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 I'm going to take him with me. He's like, fine, take him. So he goes up, and he hears about, and then he brings Kirk aboard. And that dynamic of, like, when Kirk is, like, in and out of it, he's hearing the mission, like, hey, we heard there's a lightning storm in space, blah, 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 blah. Kirk overhears it, and he wakes up, he's like, wait, lightning, oh, no, that happened the day I was born. I read it in the manifest. I read all that stuff. And he goes and tries to warn Pike and stuff like that. And he's like, hey, man, we need to stop right now. We're going into something. We're going into an ambush. We're going to be attacked and whatnot. We need to stop mid-warp here. And Pike is like, what do you mean? And then Kirk brought Uhura up to, from the bottom deck to the main deck. And it's just like, hey, you tell him Klingon. You heard Klingon and everything like that. She was like, yes, I did hear that, blah, blah, blah. And Pike's like, okay. Then Spock goes, that's logical and everything. And they get there, war zone, of course. Ships are being blown apart from Nero's ship and stuff like that. And Nero sends a transmission to the Enterprise and tells them, like, hey, no, the best part about it is when he comes in, when they come in with the Enterprise and stuff like that, and they're like, fire upon him. And then Nero looks, he goes, wait, magnify the hull in that deck. And he sees the USS Enterprise, and he's like, stop shooting at that ship. Hull, he's like, because he knows that younger Spock is on that ship. This is all about Spock. And so then when he hails them, he's like, hey, you need to surrender, send your captain over, Captain Pike and whatnot, and we'll go for further negotiations there, blah, blah, blah. And while Nero's ship is sending has a drill down on the planet Vulcan, and he's just, they're drilling so they can put that red matter in. So Pike is like, okay, I'll come over, and Kirk and Spock were like, hey, I don't think that's a good idea, okay, So Pike's like, okay, Spock, you're acting captain for now, your Enterprise. Kirk's my first officer. Kirk, Sulu, guy, red shirt, you're with me. You're going to go down and stop the drill. And while I'm distracting Nero and everything like that. Great scene, too, when they're getting shot down. And my favorite part is when Pike looks at Sulu and goes, do you have any combat expertise? He's like, yes, sir. Then when they get on the ship, they go jump down with Pike, these awesome suits and stuff like that, that jump down so they can get the drill stopped. Kirk looks at Sulu and goes, so what was your combat? He goes, fencing. See, little subtle stuff like that. And he goes down. Pike goes to Nero. They go down. They stop the drill. Red shirt dies because that's what happens. Never be a red shirt in Star Trek. That's just death right there. So they go down, and just this amazing scene going down this drill. And they get the chutes pulled and stuff like that. They get some Klingons on. They get some Klingons on board of this drill bit. They finally break it down, and it was Scotty. It was Chekhov. When Sulu and Kirk is falling, Chekhov is, they're like, we can't get a hold of him. We can't beam him to the ship and whatnot. And Chekhov's like, oh, I can do that. And he goes, he's running, boom, boom, boom. He brings him back to the Enterprise. Spock is coming out. He's like, yo, I got to get down there. I got to go save the council, the Vulcan Council. I know where they're going to be. I got to go save my mother and everything like that, because the planet has mere minutes before it's sucked into a black hole. So Spock goes down, finds his family. And what's funny is, like, when he finds the council of the Vulcan Council and stuff like that, he walks in and they're all just standing there, and the thing's shaking around him, and he's like, we need to get the fuck out of here. Come on, Ma. Come on, Ma. And they go, and they're trying to get beamed up, and sadly, Spock's mom doesn't make it. Because the planet's falling apart, and so Captain Pike's taken, Vulcan's gone, and it's very sad, especially for Spock. And Spock just shows no emotion. That's just Spock himself. And he gets into it with Kirk, because Kirk is like, hey, we can't go back. We gotta outflank. We gotta, Nero knows the future. So Nero knows how he can be predictable. So let's not be predictable. In this point in the story where Spock abuses his power a little bit, and after Kirk and Spock get into it, Kirk beats up a couple of the guards, and then he gets the Vulcan pin, the Vulcan grip on his fucking arm, and he passes out. They ship him off to this planet that has an outpost for Starfleet and stuff like that. It's on this ice planet. Very, very cool scene with some very cool creatures and whatnot. And as Kirk wakes up, and he's like, oh, shit. Damn pointy-eared bastard. He goes, and he's trying to track down where this Starfleet base is, And he meets old Spock. And that was a really cool scene, after this creature's coming after Kirk. And Spock comes in with a shoo, and they're talking, and he's like, you are my oldest friend. And Kirk like, no, I'm not. We hate each other. You hate me, I hate you. We're not best friends. And he goes, and you guys need to be together. You guys, and they go find the outpost, and this is where we get introduced to Scotty, played by Simon Pegg. And he is fantastic. Like I said, all the casting for this movie is great. So we meet Scotty, and he tells Scotty, he's like, hey, you're going to beam us aboard the Enterprise, and Scotty's like, yo, we can't do that. We can't beam ourselves here and there, transport ourselves while something's moving. And he goes, Scotty, you did invent this. He's like, when? He's in the future. And he shows him his algorithm or whatever. And he goes, oh, whoa. So he uses that to help transport Kirk and himself to the Enterprise. Spock stays behind. He's like, hey. And he takes a little bit of a gamble, and he kind of lies to Kirk. He's like, hey, you have to do this because you guys need each other. You and Spock need each other. So don't tell him you met me. Don't tell him what you know. Or it's altercations that's going to happen. If I meet him and he meets me, the world's going to explode. Old time travel bullshit. And that's what I love time travel. So they get there, and old Spock tells him, like, hey, there's this rule where if a captain's compromised and taking things too personal, he has to relieve his duty and whatnot. And Kirk's like, you're compromised? And he goes, man, I just saw my planet die. My mom die. Of course I'm compromised. So they get back on the ship, and there's this great funny scene where they're in the docking bay, not docking bay, in the where the warp drive is and stuff like that. It's as they get transported there, Scotty got into the tank, this water tank, and he's going. It's a fun little scene. Then Kirk saves him. They go up. Scotty's like, oh, I like the ship, And Kirk pisses off Spock. Then after Spock loses his shit, bam, 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 he beats up on Kirk. He stops after his dad's like, hey, stop it. And he's like, oh, my God, what did I do? Hey, and then Spock goes, I've been compromised by this mission. I stepped down as captain. And he walks out. Uhura's like, oh, my God. And their relationship, too, like after he lost his mom, Uhura went to him. He's like, hey, I'm so sorry. What do you need me to do? Spock being a little bit of emotionless, he goes, I just need you to do your job. That's it. That's all. I just need you to do your job, and I'm your guy. And she's like, okay. Like I said, beautiful relationship. So after Spock steps down, Bones goes, well, there you go, Jim. Now we don't have no captain and no first officer. And Sulu's like, oh, he got first officer. And Bones' reaction to it was great. He's like, what? So Captain Kirk is here now. We have Captain Kirk. He puts the mission forward. He's like, okay, hey, we're gonna, this is what we're gonna do. They all come up with a plan. And there's this great scene with Spock's dad, and Spock's dad tells him, because there was a point in the starting of the movie when we saw younger Spock get in a fight about his emotions and everything like that. Getting mad because the Vulcan kids called his dad a traitor because his dad married a human, from Earth and everything. So Spock is half human and half Vulcan. And in that scene that we see prior, there's a really great scene with his mom. His mom's Winona Ryder. Fantastic. And he asks his dad, why'd you do it? His dad's like, it was only logical. This. Then fast forward to this moment, he tells him, like, hey, I was in love with your mom. I fell in love, an emotion, and Spock kind of gets it. And he's like, oh, I am half Vulcan and I'm half human, and I have to be, it's only logical that I do feel. So after they create their plan, Spock comes back. Now we got the crew. The crew is together. They're like, yo, we're going to go stop Nero before he destroys Earth. Let's do it. Great scene where they warp and they get into close to Earth, and they're by Saturn, so they can't be located by Nero's ship and everything like that. And Kirk and Spock, they jump on this ship to go into Nero's ship so they can steal old Spock's ship to get it out of there and go save Pike. So they get, and my favorite scene in this movie is when Scotty's like, okay, I'm going to beam you upon their ship, but I'll put you somewhere where you're not going to be seen or anything like that. So they're like, okay, I'm putting you in the cargo bay. There shouldn't be nobody there. So Scotty beams Spock and beams Kirk. And of course it's in the most what's it called? Designated area where everyone's at. And he's like, oh my God, shit. So they get in a shooting match and everything like that. Phaser set to stun, and they find this. They finally find old Spock's ship, and Spock jumps on, and then the computer's like, "Welcome back, Spock." And he's like, "What?" And he looks at Kirk. He's like, "I feel like you're not telling me everything." He's like, "Hey, no, just do this." He goes, do you think I can fly this ship?" He goes, yeah. He goes, "I feel like I have before." Kind of hinting like Kirk's not telling him about old Spock. So Spock takes the ship, flies off to distract Nero and everything like that. Jim finds Captain Pike after a few fights and whatnot, and Pike and Kirk get beamed upon the Enterprise. And that while at this time, here comes Spock with his ship, with that red fusion stuff, inside his ship, the red matter, and Nero's like, blah blah blah, blah, kill that, shoot that ship, and even his homies were like, yo man, if we shoot that ship, that's gonna cause a black hole. Well, I don't know where we're gonna go. Then Spock just rams it into Nero's ship. Black hole starts, and Spock gets beamed to the Enterprise, and then Kirk and Spock like, okay, bring him up, and they tell Nero, hey, Kirk goes, we can save you, blah 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 blah, and he goes. And then Nero comes on. He's like, no, I'd rather see the deaths of the blah, blah, blah. Just being a typical bad guy. And he's like, And then Spock pulls Kirk aside. He's like, hey, we don't need to be nice to this guy. Fuck this guy. He just, the Kirk's like, I was just trying to be logical. I was just trying to, he goes, not this time. And Spock's like, fuck him. He's like, all right, fuck him. And they're like, all right, well, we're trying to negotiate with you. And they just blast Nero to hell while Nero's ship is being pulled into this black hole. So, while that happens, they beat Nero, but they're not out of it yet. And I just remembered, while Spock's being shot upon, when he's on his ship, and Nero's shooting at Spock's ship, then all of a sudden, this great moment that I always perk my ears up for, is while all these missiles were coming at Spock's ship, Nero's crew was like, hey, there's another ship. It's on the coming. And and then here comes the Enterprise. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, yeah, baby. So great music, great everything. And the black hole starts, and the Enterprise is being pulled back, and the ship is like being ripped apart little by little. And they're like, oh shit, what can we do? And he goes, Scotty, you need to get us out of here. He goes, I'm giving it all she's got, Captain. And he's running around in the bay. He's like, hey, what if we send off these fusion thingies, and it's going to blast us, give us enough oomph to get out of here, And so he goes, do it. We got to do it now. We're going to pull in the black hole. And then they shoot off these fusion things. Boom. And then it shoots the Enterprise off. Bada bing, bada boom. And everything's good. And then they flash to the Starfleet Academy, where Kirk relieves Captain Pike of his duties, and he takes over the Enterprise. Great scene with that. Old Spock's there, and he meets younger Spock, and he tells him, like, hey, Spock was like, I'm going to step down from Starfleet. I'm going to go join the Vulcans, to reestablish our race and everything like that. And old Spock's like, hey, you can be in two places at once. And Spock asks him, he's like, how come you told him not to tell me about you? And he's like, because you two needed each other. And I kind of lied. It was a gamble, So, fast forward. Now we're on the Enterprise. They're going to go on a mission. Spock's overhead. Space. The final frontier. Everyone's in their positions. And it's just this great, great, great shot of everybody. The whole crew. Kirk in the chair. And he tells Sulu, punch it. Woo! Oh, I love this movie so much. And the reason why I wanted to start out 2023 with talking about this movie is because of the fact that we are in charge of our own destinies. And even with alternate timelines, there's a reason why you're going in that direction. There's a reason why you're going to go from point A to point B. And sometimes you're going to go to point C. But, we all have to handle our destinies in different ways. We're all built for greatness. It's just a matter of taking those steps to greatness. Like how Kirk took his step to join Starfleet, then got the ship. And instead of what he said, in 3 years, I will get my own ship. And which he did, he accomplished, because that was Kirk. He's a cocky son of a bitch, but he got it. And dealing with your emotions like Spock. Spock coming to grips with he tried to accept the Vulcan way of not showing emotions or anything like that, but us accepting our emotions as human beings. Some of us can be cold bastards, but we got to understand that there can be emotion, there can be care, there can be love, there can be fear and everything like that. And that's what this movie speaks to me, is like, you are, like with Kirk, you're in charge of your own destiny. You know, it takes cockiness to get to where you need to be. And Spock, you know, is cold, but also too, you can let in those emotions and just find yourself. And you have a crew, which is your family. Sound like Dom. It's all about family, you know. So that's the way I looked at this movie. And after talking, like, I've been talking my wife's ear off and been driving her crazy because I was like, damn, I love this movie so much. Oh, you know, next podcast I want to talk about Into Darkness, because I'm watching that right now. But go check out Star Trek from 2009, directed by J.J. Abrams. Just a fantastic way to reboot a universe, reboot this universe, and with a story where now they can go wherever they want, alternate timelines. You know, he really doesn't do that in the second one, because the second one we got Khan again, you know, trying to remake that moment with the Wrath of Khan, Star Trek. But I'm like I said, I'm going to talk about Into Darkness next podcast. But 2023 is here. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you learned something from this podcast, or just being like, man, this fat motherfucker just told me the whole movie. I don't need to go see the movie now. I recommend it. This is from 2009. It still holds up. Everyone's fantastic in their roles. This movie's perfection in my eyes. This movie is like nostalgia beyond nostalgia, but also changing things that need to be changed, and taking a universe and being like, okay, now we can play ball. We can do whatever we want. So I'm hoping, too, that I see the crew come back for Star Trek 4. I remember hearing rumors about it, and when they announced, like, oh, we're going to do Star Trek 4, but most of the cast was like, really? No one told us? Hey, let's talk money. Let's talk Benjamins, buddy, huh? We'll come back for a sequel. So I want to see everyone back. Chris Pine, Carl Urban, Zachary Quinto, everybody back in the roles, back on the Enterprise. I'm ready to go back out there to explore space. Let's do it, baby. Let's go explore space together. The final frontier. Let's do it, y'all. Let's take this year and let's make it our destiny to be great and to have emotion and be emotional about things, and also making this year our bitch. Star Trek, baby. And this is the Sexy Ninja Cast. Like and subscribe. Share it with your grandma. Share it with your grandpa. Share it with the bum down at Walmart. I am KMB, the Sexy Ninja. And remember, live long and prosper. Whoop, whoop!
Welcome to the wicked shit.